Frak, this podcast, come and listen to us talk about Battlestar Galactica. It's a show that we're talking about. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak, this podcast. I am your sniffly host, Jesse Gender, and I am joined as always by...
It's Vera, not sniffly, just tired.
I didn't sleep well last night. I was up till 5 in the morning, so...
Jesus Christ!
I know. Welcome to insomnia. It's been fun. Like, my computer crashed today. I didn't sleep. I was planning on doing writing today. I didn't get any of that done, so I cleaned the house a little bit. That's about all I did, so I'm feeling kind of a little anxious about, like, not being productive, so...
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know that feeling a little too well.
Gotta be good for the capitalist society, Vera. We were talking about that before we were recording, so fun times.
Yeah, fun all around.
How was your day, Vera? It's only been a day since we recorded our last episode.
Yeah, it has. Okay.
Yeah, just okay.
I think I'm finally pulling the trigger on no longer doing premieres for my YouTube videos.
I saw that. I saw your post on Patreon about that.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel worth it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I used to do it, and I had fun doing it, but my big problem was, like, I learned that my premieres it's changed now, but my premieres tended to do well, like, early in the morning, like, if I premiered them at 7 or 9 or whatever, and then they were, like, long videos, so it's like, I don't want to be awake for that.
And that's fine. I know, like, a lot of people who used to do them more, like, basically just got too big and they became unmanageable. Yeah. And, like, I get all that, and I don't have any of that. For me, it's just a case of, like, I know this doesn't help the performance of the video. Like, I know that for a fact. So if I'm no longer having fun with it because it seems like fewer and fewer of the regulars who used to be around for this are even here, and even when, like, the number of people in the chat is decent, like, engagement is lower, conversation is lower, I'm like, why am I carving out, up to an hour in the middle of one of the days of my weekend every week for this still?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was at the time, but yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I liked the idea of it. I liked the community aspect and seeing people react to stuff. But yeah, it's just I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Alas, what are you gonna do? That's just how life goes.
Yeah, it's just become one of those things that is more work than I get back out of it.
Well, you can use that time to rest and get a little resurrection, resurrect yourself a little bit. And speaking of which...
I'm sorry, what about my erection now?
You can get your erection shipped. And speaking of your erection...
that's one way to talk about morning wood, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of... your morning wood, thanks for derailing 3 of my
I knew where you were going, and my immediate thought was, she's winding up for so long, I have so many ways to derail this.
I had 2 good, like, there were 2 decent ones, and then you derailed me, and then it was just bad. Then I had to go off morning wood, and that doesn't help.
I made it my mission today. Like, I will not let her smoothly transition into this. I refuse.
Well, speaking of refusing me allowing to transition into a new body, we're talking into a new topic. Anyways, we're talking about today's episode, Resurrection Ship Part Uno.
Spoiler, yes. I'd avoided looking at the episode title.
Well, now you know.
No, I didn't actually avoid looking at the episode title. There's no way for me to do that. But because you'd mentioned that last time, I'm just...
What I should have done, because I had to upload the video for it. I mean, you watched it on definitely legal means.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. But I should have done things to obscure the title from you.
Which is totally a thing that you can do on...
Yeah.
Whatever service it's currently
Amazon.com, where you 100% paid $2 per episode to stream it.
Yes, I absolutely did that.
100%.
Jeff Bezos deserves that money.
I've been, just side note, I've been listening to, because we were talking about this before recording, but I'm working on a video about why billionaires love Star Trek. And and the two big ones are Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, but a bunch of others do as well. But Jeff Bezos, I've been just listening to a bunch of Jeff Bezos talks, and I'm just like, oh God, this guy is so boring.
I've never actually heard him talk. I don't want to.
He's very similar to Elon Musk, except for like even less charismatic, if you can fucking imagine. Like
I have a hard time imagining that. Like when we recorded just yesterday, and like this topic came up, and you mentioned like, you know, the charisma and cult of personality. I let it go because we were already tangenting all over the place. But I did want to stop you and go, okay, I want to challenge the idea that he's actually charismatic. I know he's built a cult of personality, but I don't think charisma is actually part of it. Steve Jobs had charisma.
It's charisma was probably the wrong word. Like, it's not necessarily charisma, but it is like this ability to talk in those spaces in a certain specific way. You know what I mean? That like
No,
works.
I literally don't. I've never seen a clip of Elon Musk talk where he did not come across as anything other than a fumbling idiot.
I have been in enough tech bro rooms, like with like tech bro kind of guys, that I'm like, I see why he's the charismatic one of that bunch. You know what I mean?
God, I'm so sorry.
And that speaks to Jeff Bezos, because Jeff Bezos is the not charismatic version of that.
Jesus.
But he's also less interesting. Like Elon Musk is interesting in a fucking like he's talking about like, I need to have as many babies as possible to repopulate the planet and like colonize Mars. And so like Jeff Bezos would do a similar thing of like, we need to colonize the moon, and this is, but it's like much less interesting. Like Elon Musk is awful, a eugenicist bullshit, fucking awful fucking guy, but he's like intriguing in a weird fucking way.
I guess the closest I could get to acknowledging him as charismatic is he's enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him that, I guess. I think this is just a difference in background, because my background in corporate fuckery, because I worked in, I didn't work in tech sectors or anything really tied to that. So my background in corporate fuckery is more sales and marketing assholes rather than tech bro assholes.
Yes. Like, look, you are correct. Steve Jobs is the one who is actually charismatic, which is why he's like well remembered in that regard, even though he is also still kind of very much in that same similar mold.
Oh yeah, no,
of like the Jeff Bezos.
Just for clarity, dear listeners, fuck Steve Jobs.
Oh, I agree. I know you weren't saying Steve Jobs also a piece of shit. He's just as much a piece of shit as like Jeff Bezos and the rest of them are. But he is better remembered because he was actually legitimately charismatic and could sell his shit much better. But like removing Steve Jobs is like the equation. Elon Musk is like of that like you can compare him to like fucking Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or like Mark Zuckerberg. Like Elon Musk
who
of those
all just
ones
seem like the IT guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like of those that slim pickings.
So
Elon Musk
basically you have to grade on the world's most generous curve, and by that metric he becomes charismatic. God,
yes.
Fuck me, man.
Like if we're gonna extend this out, just because we're already tangenting on this, but we were talking about how Baltar's like the weird guy, right? What a weird little man.
Yeah.
Like I just think of how Baltar acts in like rooms with those people, and then like compare that to like the video of like Elon Musk in the White House next to Trump. Like it's actually a very similar vibe. You know what I mean? And like he is the charismatic one in that fucking room in a way that like the curve is terrible, but in a weird way. Like he comes across as like the smart Steve Jobs types to Trump. Like Trump is charismatic in another way that appeals to like that conservative, like, well, he's very real. He's like a real kind of guy, even though he's like a billionaire too and a piece of shit as well. But he's like, he goes to McDonald's, like that kind of, he like speaks in that way. Whereas Elon Musk kind of is like what people think the smart guy is. You know what I mean?
I mean,
he's not really, but that he gives that weird impression.
I try not to insult the intelligence of whole swaths of people, and I know I'm about to do it to anyone who's a fan of Elon Musk, but also if you're a fan of Elon Musk and you're listening to anything I have to say, why? Go fuck yourself. But like Elon Musk is a stupid person's idea of a smart person.
Yes. Yeah. And Trump is the stupid person's idea of a rich man. Like, ooh, he like puts gold on everything, and like, you know, he can just do whatever he wants, and like golf, so like, you know, rich people are kind of like Trump, but he's like, it's like kayfabing it a lot more than like a lot of other people are. He's like has to put gold on everything because he's like trying to cover up for like insecurities of his bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
oh, I mean, there's that, and there's just the reality of people like these idiots. We will get to Battlestar Galactica eventually, folks, I promise. But like the reality of people like this have completely soured me on the smart asshole trope of so much media. Like like this thing of like, oh, like if you're smart enough, it's okay that you're an asshole, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Well, it's the same thing that I was a little bit cynical. I was trying to articulate in my review of it, and I won't spoil for you, but the Fantastic Four kind of also, the movie traffics in that, like, brilliant science family that everyone looks up to. And, like, it's slightly different because they're, like, a family as opposed to, like, one guy, like a Tony Stark kind of figure.
Yeah.
But like they are that like like the way they're framed is that very like Walt Disney-esque, like perfect, like he's here to save us sort of thing that I like am very cynical on, but people like Elon Musk want to see themselves as.
Yeah.
Is that sort of like Fantastic Force kind of vibe. Which again is why they like Star Trek, which is what the video is about. They want to be the thing with Star Trek is they want to be Gene Roddenberry. Is like, it's not that they just want to like be in the Star Trek future or the technology stuff. It's like they want to be the visionary who created that future. Like that's why they're into Star Trek, is they just want to be Gene Roddenberry.
Because none of them have any imagination. Because none of their ideas are their ideas. They all stole them and just because they had more money.
And if you really want to be Gene Roddenberry, you should be having a lot more fucking orgies and be thinking about fucking a lot of guys a lot more often. Like, yeah.
Like at the very least, could you be gayer?
Yeah, like I have Gene Roddenberry, man with a lot of problems, very womanizing, but like he also was later in life being like, I could have fucked a man good, you know, which is not a place I don't ever think Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos will ever get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Anyways, Resurrection Ship. I do want a quick look at, and I haven't even looked at it, so we'll just see what we're going to roll the dice with here. But last week, for the last episode, I should say, I read comments from the episode right before this one, which is right before Pegasus was Flight of the Phoenix. But I'm going to go back an episode to read comments from the episode Final Cut. Kind of out of order because we're filming these back to back because Vera missed last week, so we kind of have two comments and things are out of order. So this is actually for what listeners now will be like 3 or 4 episodes ago for you. But I'm going to read some of these comments. Erica Weiland says Jesse has a shining future as a recording artist, which I'm assuming is going to my but song. Yep. The Dominatar T100 says, you should absolutely do Xena next when you're finished with Battlestar. It'd finally get Jesse to watch peak gay TV, and it'd be fun to have Vera being the one who knew what was going on after 2 shows of Jesse being in that position. I mean, I like to be in the smart position.
I don't know Xena front to back. Like, I know it, but it's not like Farscape where I ever watched the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could consider. We could put it on the list. I know we have a bunch we'll consider whenever we finish Battlestar, but
we've got at least a year or 2 before we need to worry about that.
Yeah, we got at least a year or 2 for that. Let's see. Style for Alley says, it's interesting to see this as a contrast to Babylon 5's pair of journalism episodes. Instead of B5's obvious propaganda in season 4, here we get something a bit more subtle. It's still propaganda, but couched in the language of objectivism, and it's used as a trick to conceal Deanna's true objective. If she hadn't stumbled upon Sharon, I can easily see her changing tactics and producing something designed to sow discontent in the fleet. It really demonstrates that there is no such thing as objective journalism because you can choose to show and not show. It's what you choose to show and not show is itself editorializing. I would also add that Battlestar Galactica was very much a reaction against the rah-rah patriotism of post 9/11 era. We'll see more of that as we go. So
cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very much agree. It's also interesting. When is this going to release? When is this episode? Yeah. I will say because it'll be out now. There's an episode of Strange New Worlds coming up that I have seen because it's a screener. That is also a episode that is from the perspective of like a documentary in universe that ends up just doing the jingoism. It's not a good episode.
Do you think they're gonna keep sending you screeners after you finish reviewing the season?
I don't fucking know. I hope so. I don't really know. I'm trying to be nice. Like this, like my review of that episode is mean because it's a bad episode that ends up saying some really fucked up things about like a bunch of stuff like Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, however you want to look at the metaphor through. So it's a bad episode, but like I'm trying to be nice, but I also got to be honest. Like I don't know.
No, I know. I'm not telling you to not be honest, but like I'm just thinking of the fact like there was a brief window of time where like I was getting review codes for Doctor Who related video games, and like I got one for the what was it, the Lonely Assassins, this sort of Weeping Angels game, which I liked a lot, and then they gave me a code for Doctor Who Edge of Infinity, which I fucking loathed. And I held back not in the slightest about that, and I never heard from them again.
I think it would require the people who give out the screenings to actually pay attention to me, and I don't think they do. 'Cause like it's weird, 'cause like there are people who I know give even worse reviews, but they get more stuff because they're like cis dudes that do it. Like I am the one. Here's another example, and it's the similar team. It's the same like Paramount like team. I am like the only YouTuber that reviews Star Trek books. Like I am the only one that reviews Star Trek books, and like those videos don't do gangbusters, but they get like 1K to 2K views pretty consistently, which is like way more than I think anyone else talking about Star Trek books on a fucking Trek website somewhere gets. And I have repeatedly and I'm not even saying I'm entitled to these things, like they can do whatever they want, but I've like signed up to the list about like, hey, I'm a journalist that like reviews Star Trek books. Can you send them to me? I've interviewed the authors. The authors regularly like tweet out my stuff. And yet I still don't get, like, I know a bunch of other people who do way less numbers than me, who are just cis dudes who do a Trek podcast, who get the books for free like a month early that I do not. So it's like, I think it's just because they don't care, they don't pay attention. So like, who the fuck knows? The only, all I will say is there is one, and I won't say which, there's one showrunner, it's not the one that you think, Star Trek showrunner, who did pay attention to my reviews and did not like what I had to say. And was a baby about it. But you can. That's all I'll say. I won't say which one.
I think I know which one.
Oh, you know, you 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I won't say it because obviously you don't want to say, but like, I know which one.
You know which one. Listeners can sort it out. There are other YouTubers, there are other showrunners who I do really love. I won't say in this podcast, but just listen to how I talk about certain showrunners in certain other videos, and you can probably suss it out. Anyways, I'll leave it there, I guess.
Now you're really tempting fate. Jesus.
I mean, like, people know there are ones that I still love, and there are ones that I don't talk about. Figure it out. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about Resurrection Ship. Hey, if that showrunner gets pissy because I alluded to this person on a Battlestar Galactica podcast, then
it would be impressive if this ever got back to them, because considering it goes on the podcast feed and the secondary channel of a completely different YouTuber.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Anyways, now that I've spilled a bunch of tea, let's get back to Battlestar Galactica. Let's get into our recap of the episode. We pick up right where we left off, with Vipers heading into face-off against Vipers between the Galactica and Pegasus. Kat is the one kind of leading the charge out there with the Galactica Vipers, and they're going right at each other, and Ty says to Adam, you gotta let them defend themselves. We should turn our batteries on the Pegasus. But it ends up being just a kind of a mess, because basically both Kane and Adama do not give the order to start firing. So all the Vipers eventually just sort of like going into each other and like just missing each other, and it just becomes like a tangled beehive of Vipers and even staring each other down.
Yeah, it's like a weird knotted yarn ball of ships playing chicken.
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of fun. I actually kind of liked it. You know what I mean? It was kind of an interesting idea of like the Viper Pirates are like, what do? We don't like, I don't know. So yeah, everyone's kind of playing chicken a little bit. The order comes down to the Pegasus CAG to relieve Apollo of duty. So he takes Apollo's weapon and sends him to, or Apollo asks permission to go to the aft of the Raptor. But while all of this is going on, we cut away to see Starbuck doing the recon mission with the Blackbird, and she literally just goes. She turns off all of her lights and goes right through.
Yeah, does the turn off the helmet light thing that I made fun of before.
So in case anyone's looking out a window, but yes, she turns off everything and she goes through the mysterious ship and takes a bunch of pictures. And then she comes back to where the Galactica and Pegasus are. And she comes back and she sees this beehive of vipers. And she's like, what the frack? Because I kind of imagine from her perspective, she's like, what happened?
What did I miss? So, like, the ship that she takes pictures of, it's kind of interesting. It looks a bit like a spine. It's sort of straight, but, like, with these bits coming out at regular intervals. I'm not sure the show did a great job selling the scale of it. Like, I get that it's big, but this is the case where I think the handheld aesthetic hurt it a little bit, because like the getting in, close and the sort of slight shake and everything, you never really got that like grand shot to really give you a sense of scale of this thing, because it's just not what this show does.
Yeah, it's always tough to do scale in space too.
I mean, it is, but also, Star Wars figured out how to do it in 1977. I like, we know how to make these things look big, and Babylon 5 managed to pull that off a few times when it wanted to go big. So like, it's not impossible to do on a TV budget. I just don't know if you can while maintaining the aesthetic that they have locked themselves into with the shooting style.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, anyway, she comes back. Apollo contacts her by text from the back of the Raptor, sort of on the DL. And sort of that leads her to...
Just slides into her DMs.
Yeah, basically just slides right into her DMs and says, hey, can you pretend to be a bogey? Be my bogey for me. But yes, she sort of pops up on the radar of both the Pegasus and the Galactica. And so all of the Vipers stop facing off against each other, and they go to face off against what they think is a Raptor. But as they start heading in... Raider, excuse me. But then when they get close, Starbuck sort of tells them, do not fire, I'm friendly. We're all friendly here. How are you? But yes, Starbuck, basically everyone figures out that this is Starbuck. Both Kane and Adama figure that this Starbuck is like, oh, she must have gone off on her own. And then Kane sort of gets interested in the fact in all of this because Starbuck sends the download of her photos, and she's like, oh, she did the entire recon mission on her own, which kind of gets her fascinated. And so then Adama calls Kane, and they talk, and basically like, you can either stand down or we start shooting. It's your call. And she sort of offers, after she gets interested in the photos, to do a joint recall of their ships. And she says, you should report to me directly after this. And Dama's like, no, I have no intention of being in your brig.
Yeah, and then she's kind of like, fine, we'll meet on neutral ground on Colonial 1. And I'm like, did you actually think he was going to show up so you could arrest him?
Exactly. He's like... He's has a little bit of an idealistic streak, but he's not stupid. So that's basically how that ends. We do get a shot right before the cut to credits where we sort of zoom in on one of the photos that Starbucks sends, and we see a bunch of 6s in the ship.
Yep.
So. All right. Over on Colonial 1, after we come back. Roslin is sort of giving a speech to Kane, and Adama's like, hey, this is a failure of leadership for everyone in this room. We need to set an example. And then Kane's like, all right, let's just cut through the hand holding. He said two of his men murdered my officer while protecting his Cylon. I have the authority to sentence them, and the penalty is death. And Roslin sort of argues like, well, the spirit of the law probably requires more than just summary executions. And Kane's like, what, have you two just been debating the finer points of colonial law? We're at war here. We don't have time for making academic points. So.
Yeah. So, Kane being the asshole in the room, that is her designated role at present.
and being very just fully military minded. And Roslin sort of makes this point of like,
I hold on to that thought because I'm going to circle back onto it later.
Roslin makes the point is like, you both have big warships, and well, I think Pegasus would prevail in any fight, and Adama cuts in and said, I wouldn't count on that. Pegasus would definitely take heavy damage and heavy casualties. So the only thing we can do here is either compromise or fight it out. Those are the only two options on the table. And she says, I want that. And Kane basically goes, I want the fleet. I need the Cylon fleet. I need Galactic to get it. So I'll suspend the executions until after the attack.
Okay, I won't kill them now, but I'll kill them later. Like, wow, how magnanimous of you.
Yeah, really. It's just like, all right, just delaying it. Adama basically says, I want them back on Galactica. And Kane's like, no, I don't give a damn about what you want. You're lucky I don't have a warrant out for your arrest. And then Roslin sort of says, all right, taking out the fleet will take priority. Then we'll meet back here. So.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So it's day of execution, quite literally. So. We then go to Starbuck being called into a meeting with Kane. And Kane reveals to Starbuck that she is promoting her to captain and the commander of the Pegasus Air Group. So she's now become the CAG because she needs a CAG with guts and initiative. And Stryker was not that.
Well, what I find interesting about that is because, like, on the one hand, like this scene is the most interesting scene that Kane gets, like in terms of characterization. And part of me suspects most interesting scene she will ever get, because I'm not super down with the characterization here. I don't think it's particularly interesting for her most of the time, but what is interesting about this, and it's going to be expanded on in a minute when you get to the dialogue with them, but like your initial thought is, she praises loyalty above all else, and she's promoting somebody who is known for, going off and doing her own thing and not listening, but it got such extremely good results. And she also, like, she mentions particularly, like, what was his name again?
Stryker.
Stinger. She also mentions, you took the ship and then returned with it completely under his nose and he didn't notice. So obviously he's not cutting it.
My guy.
He's not cutting it regardless. But this is, initially my thought was like, okay, you just think that what she can do for you is worth the trouble that she is. But then we get a little more dialogue between them that kind of leans in a little bit of a different direction, which I found really interesting, and I expect to never get fully explored properly.
Well, yeah, there's a few things that go on in the scene. So she, Starbuck asks about Lee, and Kane says, I came this close to throwing him in the brig, but I can't charge him and not you, so I just revoked his flight status. Starbuck says, I want Adama on my team, sir. And then Kane gives her a fucking look that I loved, of like, interesting, and says, do you always get what you want? And Starbuck says, most of the time, sir. And Kane says, good, me too. You can have him. And
that's the moment where I'm like, that exchange between the two of them is the most nuanced and interesting characterization that she has gotten. Because prior to this, the most interesting thing for her was when she made some valid points, but the show was structured in a way that she was still the asshole in the scene, so it didn't matter. But like, this is by far the most interesting bit of characterization that we've gotten for her, where she gets to step out of the asshole box for a half second.
And what I kind of like about this scene, because the other thing that happens here is she also brings up, like, I hear you want to return to Caprica. To get the people back there, and Starbuck's like, yes, we should go back. And Kane's like, yeah, they deserve to be saved. And I'll even go one step further. Our ultimate goal is we should return to the colonies and kick Cylons out of our homes. To which Starbuck says, best idea I've heard all day, sir. So I do like this scene and interesting because you see that Starbuck actually interestingly has a respect for Kane too. Like, she's like, Kane's the one that actually is like, because we got last episode her like being frustrated by Adama and Roslin's kind of pragmatism. in the face of like, can they go back to Caprica? And Kane's the one's like, no, we can go back and hit him hard with a kind of her aggressive, like, let's punch him in the fucking nose sort of vibe.
Although, like, I wonder, because it doesn't come up here, does Starbuck, like, is she yet comprehending the idea that if Kane got her way in terms of how this goes down, they go back to Caprica and that's it. Like, the idea of finding Earth is completely off the table. And I'm curious as to how she would feel about knowing that that's no longer something that would be anybody's goal. I have no idea, though, because I still don't know how anybody felt about what is going on after that fucking cave field fucking constellation bullshit cut back to the Galactica nonsense.
Yeah, it is weird that like the like because I do think I like that Starbuck does kind of have this like, oh, I respect Kane being the one to be like, yeah, we'll go get the people back on Caprica, and sort of feeding into Starbuck's desires here. But yeah, we also don't have any idea about how Starbuck feels about Earth, and like no one like to be like, no, we should go back to Earth instead of going back to Caprica.
Like was that a mission she was only down for because she thought going back to Caprica wasn't an option? Is it something she's actually got some investment in at this point? I don't fucking know. The more time that passes and I still don't know how almost any of the characters who were in that fucking scene felt about what went on in that fucking scene, the more pissed I get about it. I'm actually angrier now about that scene than even when I saw it. The more time passes and the show fails to deal with this, it is pissing me off so much.
We'll get back to it, but not for a bit. Yeah.
God damn it, man.
Well, we then get to what I think is another interesting scene between Adama and Roslin. Adama's still over on the Colonial One. And Roslin sort of is just speaking to Adama, is like, there's only one way out of this. You've got to kill her. And Adama's like, what the hell?
I practically clapped. Like, I'm not saying I necessarily agree that this is the best way to resolve the issue. I'm like a little bit torn, but like, fuck, I love her. I love her that she's like, cut through the bullshit. We need to kill her. I'm like, God damn it, I love this woman. She's such a great character.
I know.
Like, this is a weird comparison, but she reminds me of a lot of the stuff that I really liked about Giles, especially in the latter seasons of Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one who would be like, okay, look, ultimately, it's this. And you all need to deal with the fact that it's this.
Yeah. He's just the character will be like, all right, this is what we got to do right now. Everyone's like, oh, but we're dealing with our petty squabbles and bullshit. It's like, no.
But we all have our feelings about this. I don't care right now. I understand that. Your feelings are valid, but they need to fucking wait.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, yes. So Adama's like, what the hell are you talking about? And Rosalind's like, let's cut through it. The two of you are willing to go to war. Do you think she's going to step down from that? She's going to bide her time and hit you the first time she can. She's dangerous, so you've got to hit her before she hits you. Which, again, very much right. Like, Kane's, like, of course Kane's going to want to try and kill him at this point, being like, all right, I'll get rid of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yep, because she's shown to be willing to do that. And Adama's like, I'm not an assassin. And then I really like this with Roslin, because I think she understands, it's not necessarily manipulation, but she's making an argument to him that'll work for him, which is like, you're a colonial officer who's made an oath to protect this fleet. What do you think she's going to do with the civilian fleet once she's eliminated you? You know I'm right. You just don't want to face it. So, and then Adama says, has the whole world gone mad? But I like that a lot, because we'll see how this goes later on in the episode. But I like it because it's like, you know, she's arguing towards the like honor and duty sense of Adama that is like very core to his being. Like, he's someone who would not want to disrupt the chain of command, but he would take duty and honor and like what the right thing to do is over anything else. So,
yeah,
appealing to that side of him to get this done is, I think, the right way to go. So we then cut to Doc Coddle, my favorite, love him. And he's doing an examination on Tumor after the rape attempt from last episode. and basically says, she's got a cracked rib. It's going to hurt like hell, but the baby's fine. And there's, quote, no signs of permanent damage. But clearly, as he's saying that we're very much focusing on the psychological damage that this has done to her, which I at least appreciated that be some acknowledgement of that visually.
Yeah. Well, like there's a very specific, and this kind of plays off of stuff from the previous episode, because we didn't really talk about this, but visually a big part of the emphasis with the 6 that's on the Pegasus, when they took the manacles off of her, there's like around her wrists and her ankles, it's not just bruising, like it looked like the metal had been embedded. It's like this gouge in her skin. And we hear Doc Cottle saying, that there's no permanent damage, and we see Toomer, sort of holding her wrist, and she has a bruise across her wrist, very much in the same kind of position as the injuries that got a lot of focus on 6 when we were learning about what happened to her. So like there is visual paralleling with where the camera lingered last episode.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's very, very good. And yeah, Toomer basically saying, we're just calling it an attack. That's what we're calling it now. Basically she's like pointing out like how they're kind of avoiding saying the word rape.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I again appreciated. And she
at least the word attack still implies a sense of violence.
Yeah. Yes.
As opposed to the fucking event euphemisms that we're dealing with now.
Yeah. Grape or whatever, Anyways, this is an interesting moment because Adama sort of is like, Adama's perspective here is like he seems very much like trying to point out like, not from the like they were not from the Galactica, they were from the Pegasus. And Toomer's like, so what, like, and she asked about Hilo and the chief, and he told because she'd heard they're going to be executed, and Adama says, I'm not going to let that happen. But Admiral Kane is in command. And then Adama goes to say what happened to you, but then Cottle cuts in, was unforgivable. And again, I wrote that down. I was like, I love you, Cottle.
Yeah, good on him.
Yeah. But then Adama finishes his sentence, happened aboard my ship. It's my responsibility, and I want to personally apologize. And then he goes see that she's okay and put her back in her cell.
Yeah, so and like it's an interesting little moment for him because like he's trying to the best of his ability, but like, dude, that's fucking weak. I apologize that you were almost raped.
Now back to yourself with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm not even doing this as like a criticism. It's the reality of the position he's in. I feel like it lands correctly that it's kind of weak.
Well, it's like it's interesting because like his callback is always to like points of honor, right? And points of like his sense of responsibility. So he's pointing out it's like the people who tried to attack you were not from the Galactica. It was the Pegasus. Like that's his concern, to make sure that she knows. Like, not really necessarily worried about her safety, but making sure she knows, like, I accept responsibility for what was my responsibility. I do not for other things, and I want to apologize because that's the honorable thing to do. But it's not really necessarily seeing her as a human. It's more like they are very functional, but also point to his sense of responsibility and pride, which I find which is a very, very, like, nuanced understanding of Adama's character, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
We then cut to Chief and Hilo in the cell on the Pegasus. And Lee comes in to visit them, and they're sort of asking, like, aren't we supposed to be dead? It's been 2 hours since we were told that our execution was supposed to happen. It was in an hour. Like, we were told the execution happened in an hour, and it's been 2. So Lee tells him, like, how many kinds of stupid are you? I'm here to tell you that it's just been delayed, not a pardon. And also tells them about the old man going to the mat for them, and they almost went into a shooting war with the Pegasus. So they are now fully aware of what's been going on.
Yep.
Then we have Baltar and Head 6 meeting in his mind palace. And Baltar is clearly in his own mind palace. Well, he's in his mind palace because he's clearly lost in thought. And he says, I've lost it, because Head Six asks him what's wrong, and he says, I've lost interest, not in you, but in this place. I suppose I don't really miss it here anymore, referring to, his home on Caprica.
I wrote down, dude needs a Mind Palace redecoration.
Yeah, get a better Mind Palace then, Yeah. It's a Mind Palace. You can do whatever the fuck you want with your Mind Palace.
You've redecorated. I don't like it.
Exactly. Well, Head Six gives this speech about, like, you know what I miss? I miss sports. I used to go to the pyramid course before a game, and I would sit down at the horn and feel like the energy of the crowd go over me, like waves of motion, like an electric current. And I would buy 2 tickets, and Baltar asked why. He says, one for you and one for me. And I knew pyramid is far too lowbrow for you, but I would like to feel that you were there with me. So.
Which, okay.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because it's like Head Six is referring to
something that theoretically Caprica 6 would have done, but since Baltar wouldn't have known if she ever did that, he's imagining her saying this.
Well,
we don't know if Caprica 6 actually did this thing she just claimed.
Yes, well, we also don't know if he's imagining it. I mean, it goes. This is
well,
going
yes, but my point being that, like, I have more reason to believe that Caprica 6 didn't actually do that than I have to believe that she did.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also just interesting because it's putting a line between Caprica 6 and Head 6, which we haven't, like, definitively known. It may not still be definitively the case here, but it is an interesting sort of, like, thing because this is the first kind of acknowledgement post saying, oh, I'm an angel of God.
Yeah.
That she's still acknowledging that, like, there's a line between Caprica 6 and Head 6.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So,
she is also oddly relaxed given how stressed out she was last time we saw her.
Yeah, I put that up to what's the mid-season syndrome? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we've been gone for 3 months, so we can kind of like reset the character's emotion a little bit based on where the audience will be coming back into this episode. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not saying it's right, but I feel like that is
watching these episodes back to back, it feels off that she is as chill as she is.
Yes, but it would feel probably less so if you were, like, coming off of, like, 3 months of not having seen the show.
Oh, probably, yeah.
So, or 2 months or however long it was. Anyways, we then cut to Baltar in real life in the cell, and Kane comes in. And Kane says, oh, you got it to eat. That's progress. Can you get it to roll over to beg? And then gives Baltar the pictures of the ship that Starbuck took and says, ask it to what it can make out of these. And then Kane goes up to the 6 on the ground, the tortured 6, and says, this thing used to sit in our mess and eat our food and listen to our stories, didn't you? You just sat there listening to us, pretending to be our friend. And then Kane kicks her. And then Baltar sort of steps in and again does the thing where he's speaking about 6 in a way that Kane will read to Kane, which is any physical contact with the subject will serve to only serve to hold us back at this point. And so Kane basically heads out and says, find out about that ship. So,
she does feel the need to get one more. She doesn't kick again, but she spits on 6.
On 6. Curious if you have anything to make of that.
No, not really. I mean, the scene playing out exactly as I expected, which is that Kane's a piece of shit, roughs her up, and it's only the promise of I'm more likely to get intel out of her if you don't do that was ever going to get her to stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, as Kane leaves, the tortured 6, I'll just call her that. I'm gonna give her name just for now. Her name's gonna be Gina.
Gina, okay.
Gina. So I there's too many 6s going on, so I'm gonna call her by her name that we will eventually learn.
Okay.
So Gina. Gina attacks Baltar and starts choking him, but lets him go. And then when Baltar sort of like is in shock and sort of there's looking at each other, 6 says, I want to die. Will you help me do that? Will you please kill me? So.
Yep. Which like is going to get some additional nuance later. But my immediate thought was like, oh, because if she'd been killed, she just would have been resurrected and she wouldn't have had to have endured any of this.
Exactly. Which is, we'll talk about it later because it's interesting later on. Yes. So sorry for spoiling that she gets a name, but I just too many sixes, and at a certain point it makes me uncomfortable. So, anyways, we then have Adama talking with Laird. Yeah.
You know what you could have called her without giving her the new name? Could have called her Pegasus.
Oh, damn it. Now I hate myself for not thinking of that. That's too good. Pegasus. But yeah, her name will be Gina. We will learn it. We will learn it at a certain point. Okay, then we have Adama going to speak with Laird, who, for those of you who don't remember, is the deck chief guy who replaced the chief, Tyrell.
The one who's too young.
But yeah, he's talking to Laird. He says, Laird says, I'm still getting up to speed, but I'm sure we'll get the birds in the air for the attack thing. And then Laird gets distracted and goes off to help something that's going on in the background. And Adama, as he's sort of walking out, calls Callie over. He's like, Laird's not military, is he? And Callie's like, yeah, he was a civilian. Scuttlebutt is that he used to be, Pegasus used to have a civilian fleet, but something happened to it, and he was drafted from that.
Yep, which was something you alluded to in the last one.
Was important. Yes, so we then cut to Ty. So Adama's sort of questioning this, but then we cut to Ty speaking to the Pegasus XO, Fisk, from last episode. And Fisk, basically, they're both getting drunk again, and Fisk is spilling the tea on everything. And basically just tells the story of hey, we did have a civilian fleet. We found Laird's ship and a few others a week after the attack, and they were good ships with FTLs and weapons and a bunch of spare parts that we could use on the Pegasus. So Kane made the decision that the military needs a priority, so she stripped the ships for parts. Ty is even aghast that they took their jump drives, meaning they left them marooned. But then Fisk also points out, Kane also looked over the passenger lists and made the decision who was valuable and who wasn't. So they basically drafted a bunch of people, as Laird said. But Laird's ship was the toughest. There were 15 men and women that were going to be taken from there, and they were traveling with their families. And there was resistance, so the order came down to shoot the families of anyone who refused to come. So they did. They shot 2 families and put them up against the bulkhead and shot them.
So I both appreciate and am annoyed by this because it does one thing that I find interesting and it ticks me off in another way. What do you want first?
Let's start with the ticked off.
All right. Ticked off is the moral oversimplification. We can circle this way back to when they had to jump and leave behind a bunch of people who hadn't, yet transferred their people onto ships with faster than light drives. And it frustrated me in that when the Cylon showed up right before, Galactic and the rest jumped away. So they knew for a fact they didn't have time to get these people. And I said at the time it would have been way more morally fascinating if they never got to know for certain that they were right to jump away and instead just had to live with the fact that maybe there was time, but you will never have the closure of knowing that that was the case. And this is a similar moral oversimplification. This means that Kane is just, regardless of whether or not she's the asshole in the room for any given season, she is now undeniably the bad guy. She kills civilians. So rather than being a case of clashing leadership styles and maybe her a little bit of inexperience, but does that give Adama the right to, try to kill her or even to take her out of a position of power? Well, let's take that complication out of it. Let's make it real simple. She kills people. So it's all good now. Now you don't have to worry about any moral grayness in a mission to get rid of this woman. And cowards. You fucking cowards.
Yeah. I agree. What was the good thing? I'll let you say the good thing because I also have a thing with this scene.
Here was the thing that I found really fascinating to think about. And it really helped for me that Fisk said, she made the decision that the military needs took priority. And this, I think, is a really important distinction because we've talked in the past about Adama having a very military mindset. And he does, But I think the key difference between him and Kane is that while he is very much steeped in that way of thinking, in his mind, the military exists for a purpose of protecting and for the benefit of the civilian population. In Kane's mind, the military is superior to them. And it is perfectly acceptable for the military to jettison civilians as dead weight. Whereas Adama has always been much more like, I will make hard decisions that might hurt civilians if I have to, but it's to save as many as I can, because the reason I'm fighting is to protect what we have left. Whereas Kane is fighting because that's what the military does, and she thinks that's more important.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like for Kane, the military is the ends, where for Adama, it's the means to protect the people.
For Adama, the military is for something, and for Kane, the military just is.
Very much so. Then the thing, it kind of jumps off of your point, but what I found interesting with this too is like, it also speaks to the weird death drive of Kane, right? In the sense that, like, what is she fighting for other than just to fight? Right, it is that sort of like not. I mean, it aligns with fascist thought, but I don't want to necessarily say it's fascist because she's not necessarily a fascist. You could argue there's similarity, whatever. It aligns in that way, but it's this sense of like, if you're just abandoning civilians, like we already have learned that all of humanity has been genocided, and theoretically, by the time they met the civilian population, they were like their civilian fleet. It would have been decently known that everyone had been genocided. So there's like a limited number of people. So it's like the fact that she considers that military needs to take priority over saving civilians or preserving as much of the human population as possible just speaks to like, all right, maybe she'll go out and kill. Like, what is she, dog who's chasing it, like, who chased the car, what are they going to get if they ever, like, caught the car? It's like, okay, you killed all the Cylons. Let's say you did that. Now what do you got? You're all just going to die. Like, you have one ship full of people that's not going to be enough to, like, repopulate humanity or whatever. Yeah. So it's like she's not necessarily doing it for anything other than just the fight of it. So there's no larger goal. So
yeah,
that's what I mean when I say death. Like, she's not necessarily seeking to die, but like as a long-term project, it's a very death culty sort of mentality.
Yeah, like I doubt she realizes it, but yes, she is on a death cult path.
So yep. Just like fascism is a death cult. Like I said, it's not a one-for-one to fascism, but her mindset certainly, like, if there was a fascist leader, she could get along, I guess, in a way that fascists can get along, in so much that, like, they all fucking hate each other, want to stab each other in the back.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we then cut to Apollo going in to see Starbuck, who is now acting as the CAG, and, Apollo, Starbuck asks Apollo, how are you doing? And he says, I'm demoted and finding myself working for one of my pilots. So great, never been better. And then Starbuck sort of says, I had nothing to do with it. And he says, never thought you did. I checked in on Hilo and Tyrrell. They're hanging tight right now. But Starbuck says, help me plan this op. I've been staring at this roster for forever and I can't figure out what to do. And Apollo's like, what, you just want to carry on? And Starbuck's like, look, there's nothing we can do. We can do this. Might as well focus on that, essentially.
Yeah, which honestly makes sense to me. Like, what is it you wanted to do, dude? Mope?
Yes. I'm going to give a little bit of credit here to not the writing of Apollo. I'm going to give some credit to Jamie Bamber, the actor. Because this dialogue here of like, great, never better, and Starbuck saying, I never had anything to do with it, and he says, never thought you did. And it comes across like very, like, the way he plays it is very like, no, it's chill, like no hard feelings or whatever, which is the right way to play that, because you could have very much used that same dialogue to make Apollo like an asshole. So I'm just, again, the writing of Apollo, not great. I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Jamie Bamber here to be like, all right, you're at least trying to make Apollo less of a dick as best you can.
Good luck. That is a Herculean task at this point.
Yes, but I'll at least give Jamie Bamber the credit of like, it's not necessarily his fault. He's doing his best. So, anyways, we then You know, it actually is interesting. I'm listening, just as a side, I've been listening to, not Trisha, why am I blanking on her name now? Because I've been listening to, Starbucks actor.
Katie Sackhoff.
I've been literally listening to her podcast. I just wanted to shout it out. Like, I've been listening to her podcast the past 2 weeks. It's a very good podcast. She's very thoughtful. She actually does some like really cool stuff, and she's been like interviewing people about like queer rights issues and like things like that. And like, she's actually pretty cool and has a pretty decent podcast. So I wanted to shout it out. I was listening to that the other day. So yeah, she had George Takei on about his new autobiography that he did.
Nice.
And while they were talking about that, like, she started bringing up how she was pissed at people getting being queerphobic towards Bella Ramsey over The Last of Us and like all that stuff. So I was just like, which is shitty is a situation, but I was like, oh yeah, you know, Katie Sackhoff's pretty cool. So I'm here for that. Yeah. So I just wanted to shout that out. Anyways, we then cut to Baltar with Gina, or Pegasus, as you called her. He gives her a fresh set of clothes he offers to her, which she does change into. I'm a bit annoyed that Baltar does take a look while she's doing that too. Thankfully, it is not in a sexual way. He does it to see like the scars on her back and the like abuse that she suffered. So it's not necessarily sexual in nature. Still was like, man.
Like, again, just by the nature of the camera, it is leery by nature, even if it's not particularly sexualized.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially with a character like Baltar, who has generally been seen to not necessarily sexualize this six, but sexualize the sixes. So it came across a little weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yes, he does ask her, were you aware of your true Cylon, true nature as a Cylon when boarding the ship, or were you what we would call a sleeper agent? And Gina says, I knew what I was. I was a soldier. I had a mission. I carried it out. And I thought that I was going to die when I carried it out, and I would have a new body and be reborn. And then she says, you didn't kill me. The things you did to me. Which, you know, is an interesting phrasing because it could mean that she's just having trauma break there and just sort of accusing him, or she generally, and this is how Baltar kind of takes it, which is like you meaning the collective you of humanity.
Yeah. That's my assumption as well.
And that's what Baltar takes it as well. He says, what they did to you was wrong, evil. I'm not one of them. You have to believe me. Things are going to get better for you from this moment on, I promise. Which, like, you can't promise that, Baltar.
Nope. Not at all.
Which Gina says, I don't want things to get better. I want to die. And Baltar says, but you know you can't die. Because you just wake up in a new body, your consciousness transfer into a new body. And then Gina points out, not if you destroy that. And she points to the ship, and the picture of the ship. And he asks what's so important about it.
Which is interesting. So what it seems to be implying, or at least how I'm currently reading this, is that her original plan was to execute her mission and get killed. And then just end up in a new body. And that would have been fine. But what this dialogue seems to be implying is that after what she has been through, she doesn't want to be reborn, and is willing to give information that will help them destroy this ship so that she will just die. Which on the one hand is kind of interesting. If we restrict the view and the perspective to strictly like the Cylons and the very idea of them, that is an interesting twist to do with the Cylon, since so much of how we have seen them behave has kind of been with the background knowledge that they don't really have to worry about what happens to them. So it's an interesting twist. However, unfortunately, there is baked into this a connotation that because she was repeatedly raped and assaulted and beaten, she is now tainted and broken and unrecoverable and would just like to die now, please. And that is kind of fucked.
Yep. If you didn't bring it up, I was going to bring it up.
Oh, no, I was going to bring it up.
And I'm bringing it up too because I'm just going to tell you because we've been talking about it and I've alluded to it before, but the episode from Strange New Worlds that I fucking hate, also does this. This thing was tortured so much that it just wants to die.
And
Whee! And it goes in that whole thing of like, oppressed or broken or, whatever, people are just too broken to ever be recover.
Yeah, and like, look, I'm not saying you can't ever justify, like, especially if it's a character that we know in advance, as opposed to just knowing through the lens of being a victim, which I'm sorry, that's all we know about this particular 6. But like, there are some ways to make it work if you have characterized this person in advance so that we understand them as a person as to why this would be what they would want. But when you haven't done that, and the only thing we really know about them is that they are abused, it is leaning into the idea that abuse wrecks you, breaks you, taints you, and for many people, it would be better off to be dead. And fuck off into the sun.
Oh, I'm just laughing because that's what they do in the Strange New Worlds episode. They fuck off the thing that wants to die literally into the sun.
Jesus Christ!
And then Pike compares it to a horse that needs to be put down.
Fuck off!
Nope.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm like, sorry. Listen, spoilers. I need to rant. I'm gonna rant about this because I've had no one to rant about this to. Listeners, if you have not seen the latest Strange Doors episode, because it'll be out by this point, skip ahead because it's a fucked episode. But it's literally, well, actually, let me. Yes, it will be out by this point.
Do you know the title of the episode so people know what to watch out for?
What is Starfleet?
There we go.
Yeah, watch out for that one. It's not good. And yeah, it's kind of fucked. But yeah, they literally just do that where it's like this thing is too broken. So and so all the and it says, I want to die. It's been tortured. I want to die. And so the crew of the Enterprise helps it literally fuck off into the sun. Pike's like, wow, there's like a horse. It's like a horse when you need, like, sometimes it's better to just put it down. And then it like everyone cries when it happens, and it's like played off as like a mercy killing. Yeah, it's fucked. It's really fucked.
Yeah, like that ain't good. I will say that, like, I haven't seen that episode yet, and I'm sure I'll go off on it if and when.
Oh, that's not even the worst part about that episode.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But like, at a base level, I find this grosser because it is specifically sexual damage. Because, like, I think the idea that anyone who has been any degree of physically abused so much that the idea that it is a kinder thing to kill them and or assist them to die is already, like, again, I'm not going to say never a way to make that work, but like, I've seen that fail at such a high rate versus find a way to thread that needle. Most things can't. But the thing is, especially when you're talking about a war situation and a military situation, it is, to me, slightly less offensive that somebody in a war, situation was like captured by the enemy and tortured. If this is a soldier, again, it's like, it's a bit of context. You can understand like the value that they would put on their physicality that maybe has now been destroyed and irreparable and that sort of stuff. And like, it's a heightened circumstance overall. Sexual assault especially of women, is exceedingly common. So when you equate this idea of maybe it's a kinder thing to help her die, when the overriding thing that happened to her was that she was fucking raped, eat shit and go to hell.
I will play devil's advocate a little bit here.
Be careful. I'm fucking careful.
I want to be careful. I'm not going to defend this. What I will say to the show's not credit, I will say it's all they've characterized her at. They will evolve this character a little bit more, so it reads in future a little bit less like, oh, this is the show saying this, and it's this character saying this.
See, but this is where you have the knowledge of the character.
I'm aware. Yes.
That gives that context because, like I said earlier, you can sometimes thread this needle if you come in knowing enough about this character so that you would understand why they make this choice in this situation. You have that because you've seen the whole show.
Yes, I agree.
But that's cheating.
It is cheating. I'm not disagreeing. I will at least say that it gets better. It doesn't make this good, but it does get better. I will a little by some degrees. So better in some ways, worse than others. Let me put it that way.
Oh, great. God, why are we watching this again? This was your recommendation?
Look, I mean, I've said this before. Like, there's a lot that I like about this show, but let me put it this way, and I've said this in other podcasts. Watching Babylon 5, I grew to appreciate that show in a different way than when I watched it the first time as a kid. There are things about that show that did not age well. There are things about the show that I actually think aged really well, and I liked more as I watched it as I'm older. Here, so far in this show, I will say there are things I still like about this show, but it has definitely stepped down in my estimation, whereas Babylon 5 grew in some regards, but this has definitely gone down in my estimation as a show as we've watched it. That being said, I am hopeful, and I've told you this off camera, that I am hopeful that there's stuff that I like that I do know that comes up in the series that I do really like. And I have a feeling that you will generally like too, because it speaks to basically the short version is when we start learning more about the Cylons, which is definitely more season 3 shit. I do end up liking the show a little bit more for a lot of what it does for that. But we'll see if that ages well. So
We'll see. Like, the thing with Babylon 5 is, honestly, other than the fucking telepath subplot, most of its problems were pretty isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could isolate, well, here's the episode where that nonsense happened. You could kind of be like, whatever. Not very much of it was a recurrent, it keeps coming up problem. Again, the telepath fucking nonsense from season 5 being the big exception on that. And even some of it, some of the recurrent problems we managed to find humor in, like the fact that Garibaldi is a fantastic takedown on police abuse of power, but the show just doesn't fucking know that.
Yeah.
We were able to approach that flaw in a way that we still got entertainment out of it. This, what we're talking about right now, is just gross.
Yes. It just speaks to cis dude bro mentality of the era which this was written in, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's just and to be fair, there were women that worked on the show, like Jane Espenson, I know, is a woman writer that worked on Battlestar Galactica. So I'm not going to say that it's only men who worked on the show, but a lot of this problems of the show definitely feel like they come down to a dude perspective.
Yeah, let's be honest. When the show was created by and is run by a dude, having women in the writing room can help, but is not going to alter the fundamental trajectories of the show, because ultimately their job is to facilitate what he wants. That's their job as writers on the show.
And again, it depends on the showrunner. There are some showrunners that I really love, who will listen to women in the writers' room and to queer people and will listen to people. Perhaps on big sci-fi franchise, and there are other showrunners who don't. So I'm flying close to the sun. Oh, there's gonna be so much tea out of this episode. It's fine. Anyways,
you're lucky this podcast is not bigger than it is.
Yeah. I'm sure
this is the thing that's gonna be dug up and haunt you in 10 years.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't regret it. People can figure it out if they want to. I have opinions. Anyways, Baltar gives a briefing to Kane. Is basically saying this is called the Resurrection Ship, and explaining what the ship is. The Resurrection Ship, because the Cylons are too far away from their home world, they built this ship to allow them to do downloads in space. It's been trailing the Galactica for several months, and it's basically their safety net, where they fall back to when they die. And if they lose that safety net, then any Cylons that die out here will be dead. That's what Kane says, that last line. And so basically they can't wake up nice and cozy in a new body, and she basically tells Baltar, you might have just identified the most important ship in the galaxy.
Which, has the potential, at least, to do an interesting shakeup on the dynamics. Now, here's the thing. I'm not sure how much that'll play out in practice, because in my head, the most interesting twist on this would be if we knew who any of the other Cylons were, and it would be interesting. Well, you fucking know, But it would be interesting if I knew who any of the other Cylons were, and so I could see how they would alter how they go about things now, knowing that they don't have that safety net. If that would alter their behavior and how. Unfortunately, because I don't know who any of them are, I don't know if that'll actually play out in practice.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting knowing who the Cylons are in this show. So.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty. Let's see. We then cut to Roslin and Adama talking again, and Roslin's kind of in bed on the Colonial One, kind of sick. And they're talking. She's saying, "I have good days and bad days, but I'm not dying today."
She has come down with an acute case of what I have called plot convenientitis, which is that it flares up whenever it is most convenient for the plot for it to flare up. And this is a scene where it's like, oh, well, Kane's not in the room, so this can be the flare-up scene where like it's feeling rougher.
Mm-hmm.
She was fine. She was fine in the previous scenes. Oh yeah, like that. It was most plot convenient for her to be fine at that point. That's how plot convenientitis works.
Anyways, Adama says you were right about Kane. Tells her about the civilian fleet stuff. And Roslin goes like, I'm not really surprised. She's playing for keeps. You got to do the same. And Adama's like, what's gotten into you? Become so bloody minded. And she's like, I know as long as Kane lives, your survival is at risk. I know that. And then they have a little joke about, Adama saying, what can I get you? And Roslin says, a new body, one of those young models from the resurrection ship. And he jokes like, you wouldn't look good as a blonde. You'd be surprised. But then reminds him, she won't hesitate to kill you. Don't let her. So.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Hilo and Tyrell have a scene together where Tyrell is basically talking about, when I get out of here, I'm going to make some changes. Me and Sharon, it's done. I can't do it anymore. And I do what we did again in a heartbeat, but I got to let it go. And then Hilo says, I know what you mean. You don't think I don't have second thoughts. I lose my fracking mind. And there's a line he says here that I was like, I clocked that one. I'm in love with a woman I know isn't a woman, which is a trans woman. I'm like, all right, I know it's not relating directly to trans, but I'm like, all right, Hilo's got some latent transphobia going on. Anyways, it's like, you got some masculinity issues going on there, Hilo, buddy. But anyways,
it is okay that your girlfriend has a bigger dick than you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make you less of a man.
It doesn't, no. But I joke, but it is interesting to map it on to that because there is that, again, it's not saying this is meant as a metaphor for that, but there is like an interesting parallels in the sense of like how, because Hilo is dating someone who is seen as not a person, or less than a person, his masculinity is questioned in a way, and that kind of bugs him to some degree, and it is something he thinks about. So that does relate to a trans experience or just a generalized marginalized experience in an interesting way that maps on, I think. So it's just interesting to look at it.
And it's not exclusively trans people. I mean, you can get this with traditionally handsome guys who like are attracted to heavyset women. Like they get the weirdest fucking reactions, and interracial relationships can get this. And if somebody who is not physically disabled is in love with someone who is, like, it gets weird on basically across the board.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but for our experiences, that's what it matters.
Yes, and our experience, and also specifically that line too, is why it kind of alludes to a very similar thing with that. But yeah, I just found it to be the show I don't think was making that intentional parallel, but it is an interesting parallel nonetheless because it maps on. Anyways. But yeah, he says, I do love her. I can't let her go, but if you can, let her go. So we're going to stop having maybe weird dick measuring contests between the Chief and Hilo.
That would be nice. Of course, there is the issue that this conversation does not once bring up what it is that she wants.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is always what fucking happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, very much so.
With scenes like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
she's a person. And I'm not saying like Hilo wouldn't have reason to believe that she would be with. She basically said or leaned strongly that way when he pressed the question. But at the same time, the two of you are having a conversation about being attracted to a person, and her feelings do not enter into this conversation at all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, we get a little scene with both Adama and Kane both reading, and Kane's reading the watch logs of the Galactica. So they're both scheming. But then we give Starbuck giving a briefing to both Adama and Kane of what her plan is.
The little ship models are back!
Yay! Everyone loves little ship models.
I feel so excited for whatever person on Galactica has as part of their job description making the little ship models, because they got to make 2 new ones. They made one for the Resurrection ship and for the Blackbird. It must have made their day.
And the Pegasus as well.
Oh yeah, we've got new ships that you need to make models for. Oh, all my Christmases have come at once. I want to know who makes these, because I want to imagine that it's like their hyperfixation happy place getting to make these.
Yes, I imagine like the moment the Pegasus came in last episode, like ooh. Yes, and it's like already like, and then they came to him. It's like, hey, we need to make some more. Oh, I already got them. They're here.
Yeah, I can imagine the Pegasus was already made. Maybe they needed the details on the Blackbird, and the Resurrection ship is new. It's like, oh, I'll get these to you right away. I already did the Pegasus. Just go ahead and grab it.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, can I get the picture? You know those top secret pictures that you took? Can I get those so I can make my little whittling project?
It's all canon as far as I'm concerned.
Oh,
I don't know
100%.
who it is on the crew, but it's somebody. And when I see the little models, I'm like, they had a good day today, and I'm so happy for them.
You know what? I want it to be Hot Dog. Let's have it be Hot Dog. Hot Dog's the one that's making the little models.
Everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see. Basically, Starbucks' plan and Lee's plan is they're gonna basically wait in the system that they know the Cylons are going to be coming to, and make it look like they're doing mining operations. They're gonna jump away, but a small group of civilian ships will stay there as decoys, drawing off the raiders. The Pegasus and the Galactica will then jump back in and attack the base stars. Well, Adama will take out Lee will take out the FTL on the Resurrection ship with the Blackbird. Ty sort of makes up a point as why don't we do the convenient thing and use nukes on the stealth ship to hit the Resurrection ship, and they make the point the Cylons will detect that, so they can't do that. We got rid of that plot element. Don't worry about it. And then the final thing is the Galactica and Pegasus will take on the base stars, while all of the Viper and Raptor squadrons will go after the Resurrection ships.
Yep. Because it was asked, like, how many squadrons do you need? All of them.
Every single goddamn one. So Adama, after hearing this plan, Adama kind of stares down Kane for a minute, and Kane goes, "Is there a problem, Commander?" He's like, "I need time to study the operational details." And Kane goes, "Well, I'm satisfied." But Adama asks for Starbuck to stick around, which Kane says 1 hour to Starbuck, and then Adama sticks around for just a second, and Lee sticks around for a second and tells Adama tells him stay focused on as he heads out. So, yep. And then we get down to the final scene, which is like kind of cross-cutting between two scenes here. One is Kane on her way back to the Pegasus, talking to her Exo Fisk, telling him that she wants him to. She's going to assign him to the Galactica. He's going to handpick a bunch of Marines. Notably, she calls them Razors. Which
I caught that because that's the name of the movie.
Yes. You're going to take a bunch of Marines. You're going to be assigned to the Galactica. Adama will try to freeze you out of decisions, which is fine, because at the end you're going to stay in CIC, and then I'm going to call you after the mission, and when I say the words execute case orange, or something I think is what she has, says, then he is supposed to instruct the Marines to kill everyone at Adama's command, starting with Adama.
Yeah.
And then in a parallel scene going on with this, Adama tells Starbuck that he has a mission for her. It's like, I don't like it, but it has to be done. After the attack, you're going to land on the Pegasus, report to the CIC. Everyone's going to be celebrating. Take Lee with you because he'll watch your back. And when I call and say downfall, you're supposed to kill Admiral Kane. So they both have competing plans to kill each other at the same time in similar ways.
Which, like, dueling assassination setups, that's a good hook to go into the next episode. I like that. And I do find it interesting that Adama's plan is to only kill her, and her plan is to kill the entire command crew.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is an interesting distinction in how they handle things.
Yep.
So, yep, that's the end of the episode leading into part 2. So we will get there next week. Anything else on this, Vera, before I do spoiler minute?
No, I don't think so.
Alrighty then. For the next 60 seconds, I am going to talk about spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers, you can jump ahead 60 seconds just like Vera's going to do in real time by taking off her headphones and giving me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
All right, so a few things here. It'll be interesting because I know that they do take out the resurrection ship next episode, but obviously that's not the only resurrection ship, so we'll get that to come back. I mean, I'm curious to see if that's going to feel like now on second watch a little bit of anticlimax, because it is just sort of like, ooh, and we have another one, so it doesn't really matter. So that'll be interesting to see how that'll play out. We also, I'm trying to remember, we'll also only one more episode with Kane. I don't remember, I guess it is. I thought they were going to be more overt about it. I guess it is just in the movie Razor where they established that Kane and Gina had a sexual relationship. I don't know if that will be implied or brought up in next week's episode when Gina does kill Kane. So not entirely sure how that's going to play out, but I am curious. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Vera to meet. Oh my God. Dean Stockwell's character. My favorite character of the show. All right. What did you think of the episode?
Bit of a mess. Like, there's some interesting stuff in here, and there's some stuff that frustrated me, and there's some stuff that grossed me out. So, like, while the moral oversimplification of Kane frustrates me in the way that unnecessary moral oversimplification always frustrates me in literally goddamn everything that does it, which is most things. I will still admit that, like, it still brought forward like some interesting distinctions between them when we talked about the difference in the military mindset between her and Adama. And obviously, if you're going to end with competing assassination plans, then, like, she's clearly going to be the bad guy, so you might as well, like, make a point while you're there. So, like, while I find the moral oversimplification irritating, they did at least do some things that you could only do after having done that. And that's sort of my general thing. Like, I am less annoyed when you take a turn that I don't like if you at least then do something with it that you couldn't have done without taking that turn, which this does. We'll see how that pans out into the next episode. So that's a little bit of a mixed bag, but there's an upside to it. The stuff with Pegasus. Yeah, not cool, dudes. Yeah. Not cool. But, like, there's other little bits and moments that show a bit more care, like the visual paralleling with the bruising on the wrist on Sharon that I mentioned and stuff like that. There's some interesting small touches and there's some interesting ideas, but there's also some fundamental face plants that I just gotta throw my hands up and go, fucking sci-fi dude bros writing shit. I can feel it.
Yep. Yeah, sci-fi dude bros writing science fiction tends to be a problem.
A little bit.
But yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really have much to add. Just that, like, a lot of the stuff that I find more interesting about this two-parter is definitely in part 2. So we'll see.
Okay, then.
Which is interesting because usually you find the payoffs are less interesting than the setups, but here I think it is definitely the reverse. So. Yeah.
Well, I'll keep you posted.
We'll see. So yeah, I don't really have much to add. I agree with you 100%. So stuff time.
Stuff. Well, you can find my stuff by going to Council of Geeks. Patreon pays the bills, and the main thing
Wait. Your Council of Geeks? Sorry. I don't know why that joke came to me. It's stupid. Anyways, keep going. I apologize. That was dumb. I'm sorry.
That was very dumb. Like real late to try and pull that.
Yeah, I don't know
that joke out of you.
I tried. Go to Council of Geeks.
The main channel has new videos every Saturday, and that's my most polished material. There's also the Break Room of Geeks, my secondary channel, where I talk about whatever I have watched, read, listened to, or played lately. I am going to try and get 2 episodes of Strange New World. I am behind because I've been behind on a lot of stuff. I'm going to try and do episodes of Peacemaker as that comes out. Look, I have a right to get angry on my own terms about this crap. Let me have that.
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just, yeah.
So I'll probably be reviewing Peacemaker as it comes out. And after that, I plan to get rid of my HBO Max subscription because fuck it. And there's also Council of Geeks on Blue Sky, where I do a very little amount of stuff. That's the geeky stuff. There is also the spicy stuff. And for that, you look for Vera Wild. And you can find increasingly spicy content on YouTube, TikTok.
You can find my stuff at Jesse Gender on YouTube, where I have video essay style of stuff. I am also on Jesse Gender After Dark, which is where I do my news, reviews, reactions. I am also going to be reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If you want my thoughts on a real bad episode of Strange New Worlds, and believe me, I've already written my review for it, and I have rants on that one. You can check that out over there. I also, I'm going to be reviewing Peacemaker and Alien Earth actually should be started by this point, so you can check out my reviews for that. I am also on Nebula, the streaming service that houses my movie Identities, as well as will house the upcoming series Subliminal, which I directed an episode of that'll come out sometime next year. I am also on Blue Sky and Instagram, the social media feeds that I use, and I also have a Patreon, which helps me pay my bills, so you can support me there, and you can get videos early, like what should be up by the time you're listening to this. In fact, I'm almost certain it will be, which is a really big video on the Ferengi in Star Trek. It's going to be a big one. I'm probably going to be holding back on releasing it publicly for about a month or so because I'll have other stuff coming out first. So if you want a video extremely early, go over there and get it early for however much you want to give. So that's it. Wee! Huzzah! That's about it right now. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
Then I hope you all, my friends, live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.